In the wake of their parents' marriages, Yume and Mizuto find themselves navigating the uncharted territory of being step-siblings, a situation made exponentially more complicated by the fact that, unbeknownst to their parents, they had been romantically involved during their middle school years. In an attempt to manage this awkward dynamic, they establish a peculiar agreement. Whenever either of them acts in a way reminiscent of their past relationship, the other will assert their new sibling status by claiming to be the younger sibling, thereby aiming to maintain a semblance of normality within their unusual circumstances. Their agreement is put to the test when Yume is manipulated into using Mizuto's surname, a subtle yet significant indication of their past intimacy. The complexities of their relationship extend beyond the confines of their home, as several boys at school, under the guise of friendship with Mizuto, attempt to ingratiate themselves with Yume, a development that stirs feelings of anger and protectiveness within Mizuto. In response to this unwanted attention, Yume resorts to a dramatic display of affection towards Mizuto, claiming to have a brother complex to dissuade the advances of her would-be suitors. However, her impulsive actions result in an embarrassing encounter when her breasts inadvertently make contact with Mizuto's arm, leaving her flustered and mortified. Seeking retribution from her earlier humiliation, Yume attempts to catch Mizuto off guard by positioning herself next to him while clad in nothing but a bath towel, a daring maneuver intended to provoke a reaction. Her plan nearly succeeds as Mizuto finds himself tempted to steal a glance, but her strategy backfires when her towel begins to slip, threatening to expose her completely. Mizuto, acting on instinct, intervenes to preserve her modesty, and as Yume attempts to make a hasty retreat, she loses her footing, causing them both to tumble onto the sofa. In that charged moment, they find themselves dangerously close to forgetting the boundaries they have established, their faces mere inches apart as they nearly succumb to the lingering remnants of their past affection. Their near kiss is abruptly interrupted by the untimely arrival of their parents, a stark reminder of the reality of their situation and the reasons behind their decision to maintain a platonic, sibling-like relationship. This incident served as a poignant reminder of why they're no longer a couple, reinforcing their resolve to uphold the delicate balance between their past and present lives, despite the challenges and temptations that may arise along the way. Mizuto encounters a fellow student named Kogura Kawanami, who expresses a genuine desire to befriend him, assuring Mizuto that his friendly overtures are not driven by any hidden agenda involving Yume, thereby alleviating Mizuto's initial skepticism. As the school's fitness exams commence, Akatsuki Minami, a classmate of Yume's, showcases her impressive athletic abilities while Yume, driven by a desire to keep pace with her peers, pushes herself beyond her physical limits and ultimately succumbs to exhaustion, collapsing in a faint. Fortuitously, Mizuto is present to catch her as she falls, preventing any further injury. Upon regaining consciousness, Yume implores Akatsuki to keep her lack of athletic prowess a secret, an entreaty that ultimately leads to the blossoming of a friendship between the two girls. Concurrently, Mizuto's behavior towards Yume becomes a source of irritation for her, as she finds her actions grating and bothersome. However, Akatsuki, having observed their interactions, begins to suspect that Mizuto's seemingly annoying behavior may in fact be his clumsy attempt at showing kindness and concern for Yume, rather than mere provocation. This insight into Mizuto's character prompts Akatsuki to view their dynamic with a more discerning eye, recognizing the subtle nuances that underlie their complex relationship. As the days progress, Yume finds herself beset by a fever, and Akatsuki, demonstrating her newfound friendship, insists on visiting her to offer comfort and support. In her feverish state, Yume is perilously close to divulging something deeply personal and potentially embarrassing to Mizuto, but manages to restrain herself upon noticing Akatsuki's presence in the room. Ever the perceptive observer, Akatsuki deduces from Yume's near confession that Mizuto must have had a girlfriend in the past, leading her to ponder the intricacies of his current living situation with his stepsister and the potential awkwardness it might present for future romantic entanglements. Curiosity piqued, Akatsuki takes the opportunity to inquire whether Mizuto views Yume as more than just a sister, a suggestion that he promptly denies, reaffirming the platonic nature of their friendship. Despite his assertions, Yume finds solace and comfort in Mizuto's presence, eventually drifting off to sleep only when he takes her hand, a tender gesture that harkens back to their time as a couple, when one would care for the other during bouts of illness. In a subsequent turn of events, Yume, having discovered the expediency of feigning illness to garner Mizuto's kindness, makes a series of demands upon him only to have her ruse exposed when he insists that she retake her temperature, revealing her deception. Confronted with the evidence of her disingenuous behavior, Yume offers a heartfelt apology, which Mizuto graciously accepts, demonstrating a capacity for forgiveness that transcends their often tumultuous interactions and reinforcing the unique bond that exists between them, despite the challenges and complexities of their shared history. 6 months ago, Yume revered items Mizuto gave her. In the present, Yume sniffs Mizuto's boxers, panics, and drops them. Fearing she'll regress to her old self and that Mizuto will find out, she decides to return them. When the time comes, Yume sneaks into Mizuto's room but finds him trying to return her bra. They play rock, paper, scissors to decide who speaks first at their impromptu family meeting. Yume goes first, claiming she reverted to her old introverted self. Mizuto probes and Yume admits she treasured things he gave her. Mizuto seemingly blushes but denies it. He explains that he took her bra from the dryer and their father walked in on him. Yume shares a similar story about his boxers. They agree to allow one demand from each other, as long as it doesn't infringe on the other's social norms. On her way home from school, Yume spots Mizuto with a girl at Wiki D's and thinks they're on a date. The next day, Yume asks Akatsuki about it, and she considers it a big deal for Mizuto. Later that day, Yume finds extra shoes at home and believes the girl is in Mizuto's room. She contacts Mizuto and has him distract their parents so she can confront the girl. Mizuto exits his room as Yume approaches, and they discuss the girl's presence, raising concerns about Mizuto's behavior or a potential ghost. Mizuto believes the incident relates to the girl from the restaurant. A flashback reveals the girl was Akatsuki in disguise who wants to marry Mizuto to become Yume's sister. Akatsuki shares her plans with Mizuto and follows him home. Mizuto contacts Kogure for advice. Kogure explains Akatsuki's infatuation and suggests Mizuto stand his ground. If she becomes too much, they'll take a direct approach. Kogure advises Mizuto to have Akatsuki give up her interest in Yume and tell Yume something. Later, Mizuto visits Yume's room to enact her punishment for possessing his underwear, a date with him. Mizuto chooses to use his penalty from the underwear incident and invites Yume on a date. Yume, taken aback by the sudden invitation, eventually accepts. The date is a stratagem devised by Kawanami to deter Akatsuki Minami, who has been insistent on marrying Mizuto and becoming Yume's sister. The goal is to make Minami understand that Yume's feelings are solely for Mizuto. Throughout their date, Minami and Kawanami discreetly follow them, with Kawanami offering Mizuto advice along the way. After the date, Minami apologizes to Mizuto about the trouble she's caused but remains steadfast in her goal to marry him. Back at home, Yume decides it's her turn to impose a punishment on Mizuto for having her underwear, evening the score between them. In a brief flashback, a young Mizuto and Yume share a cherished moment before they were officially a couple. While reading on the couch, Yume asks Mizuto to join her in buying a Mother's Day present. She reasons that it would be less awkward if they both gave it and could split the cost. Mizuto sees through her excuse and refuses, wanting to enjoy his Sunday in peace. Undeterred, Yume returns later, dressed up, causing Mizuto to stare and break their rules. On the subway, they end up in an awkward position due to the bumpy ride and decide to stay that way to avoid repeating it. At the shopping mall, they visit Isatan and choose a bouquet of carnations for their mother. That afternoon, Yume finds Mizuto paying respects at his mother's altar and comforts him. They discuss their parents' lack of time together despite being newlyweds. Mizuto believes their parents are being considerate, but Yume is skeptical. They brainstorm ways to get their parents closer, but their plans lead nowhere. The next day, Mizuto finds a place for them to stay, Kogure and Akatsuki's home, revealing that they are next-door neighbors. On Saturday, they visit the apartment complex and are greeted by Akatsuki and Kogure. Once separated, Akatsuki and Kogure share their history. Kogure makes a lewd comment, causing Yume to bang on the wall and text Mizuto, calling him a pervert. In retaliation, Mizuto hogties Kogure and reads a poem Kogure wrote about Akatsuki, causing Akatsuki to slam the wall and be held back by Yume. At Saizeta, Kogure and Akatsuki argue about food, while Yume and Mizuto mix drinks from the soda fountain. Following a joke suggestion by Kogure and Akatsuki, Akatsuki snuggles against Mizuto and asks him to tutor her, but he suggests Yume instead. Mizuto's comment about his poor teaching skills upsets Yume. Back at home, they study for exams. Outside, Mizuto admires Yume's pajamas, forced on her by Akatsuki. They recall the similarity of their current interactions to when they first met, and then head to bed. Akatsuki asks Yume to walk home together, but Yume declines. Akatsuki's friends chime in, noting that Yume is focused on securing first place in the upcoming midterm exams. At home, Yume studies diligently, recalling her middle school days when Mizuto outscored her in math. Despite reclaiming her top spot, Mizuto's indifference left her feeling hollow. She fell in love with him after a chance meeting in the library, where they discussed mystery books. Yume confronts Mizuto about his lack of studying, but he declares he'll take the top position from her. Yume challenges him to do his worst. The next day, Mizuto comments on Yume's determination to maintain her top rank. After the first day of exams, Yume worries that Mizuto scored higher in Japanese, his strongest subject. She enters his room, finds his test, and confronts him about leaving the last answer blank. Their mother intervenes, but Mizuto stands his ground, stating he doesn't care about being first and that Yume can think what she wants. Yume leaves in tears, believing her rivalry with Mizuto is unrequited. When the midterm results are announced, Mizuto places first and Yume places second. After conversations with Mizuto, Akatsuki, and her friends, Yume realizes what truly defines her and cries tears of joy. Akatsuki tries to console her, misunderstanding her tears. Yume finds Mizuto with a new girl, Isana, in the library. She uses the same pickup line Mizuto used on her and learns that Isana is Mizuto's only friend. They run into Yume and Akatsuki at the school entrance, and Isana is formally introduced. Once alone, Isana learns about Yume and Mizuto's relationship. At home, Yume reflects on her past and current relationship with Mizuto and acts kinder towards him during dinner. Mizuto, perplexed, relays this to Isana, who advises him that everyone has their own set of criteria for what they want in a person. Mizuto appreciates her advice. Later, Mizuto visits Yume's room and confesses his dislike for her recent behavior. Yume confesses that Isana triggered her change in personality. Mizuto, relieved, comments that it was creepy as he leaves. The next day, Yume and Akatsuki formally introduce themselves to Isana, who is taken aback. Mizuto clarifies Yume's misconception about their relationship. Isana gives an abstract answer, reinforcing her lack of interest in Mizuto. In a flashback, Yume struggles to leave a love letter in Mizuto's shoebox. She finally gives him the letter after school, and surprisingly, he accepts her offer to be her boyfriend. Isana receives a threatening letter about her secret. At a restaurant, Yume and Akatsuki reveal themselves as the culprits. Yume apologizes for the prank, but Akatsuki insists they know Isana likes Mizuto romantically. They show Isana a video of Mizuto sleeping, proving their claim. Isana admits Mizuto was her first crush, but declines their help to become his girlfriend, insisting they're just friends. Yume gives a motivational speech, and Isana admits she'd like to confess her feelings. They've planned their mission for the next day. The following day, Akatsuki and Yume observe Isana and Mizuto to find his weak point. They notice Isana's underwear showing, and Mizuto stoically points it out. Embarrassed, Isana regroups with Yume and Akatsuki. They decide Isana needs to be more physical to make Mizuto appreciate her. Isana tries but fails miserably. Yume suggests Isana to be true to herself, and Akatsuki offers a makeover. After the makeover, Isana returns to Mizuto, but he rejects her advances and gives her a noogie. However, he combs her hair, which they consider a success. At the restaurant, Yume and Akatsuki persuade Isana to confess her love to Mizuto. She agrees to meet him behind the school the next day. The following day, Isana prepares with lip gloss and a pep talk from Yume and Akatsuki. Mizuto arrives and figures out why he's there. Isana confesses, but Mizuto cannot accept her feelings due to prior commitments. Yume internally contemplates his reasoning. The next day, Akatsuki and Yume confront Isana about hanging out with Mizuto after his rejection. Isana insists they can still be friends despite her heartbreak. Isana, eager to see Mizuto's book collection, is invited to his home. First, Yume and Akatsuki take her shopping, finding her t-shirt unfashionable. They struggle to find suitable clothes due to Isana's bust size. Akatsuki suggests they swap styles, with Isana trying Yume's loose and fluffy look. Yume recalls her past date. At Mizuto's house, he questions Isana's presence with his parents' home. Yume intervenes, preventing any potential seduction attempts by Isana. Later, Yume asks Isana about her feelings for Mizuto. Isana shares that she values him as her closest and only friend. Isana then explains to Mizuto's parents that she's not his ex, but a friend who remained so even after rejection. After starting their relationship, young Mizuto and Yume share their first kiss. Mizuto invites Yume to his house and takes her to his room. Both nervous, Yume expects them to sleep together, but Mizuto suggests reading a book instead. After finishing, Mizuto walks her home. Both regret not taking the next step despite their anticipation. On their first day as third-year students, they walk together, hoping to be in the same class. However, they end up in separate classes. On April 5th, they study in the library, and Yume laments their separation. Mizuto promises to spend time with her after school and during holidays. On the 9th, Yume excitedly shares about her new friend with similar interests. She reads a book suggested by her friend and discusses it with Mizuto. However, Yume's new friend intervenes in their time together, causing Mizuto to feel discouraged. He eventually stops meeting Yume in the library. When Yume catches up with him, Mizuto coldly dismisses her talk about her friend. Later, he regrets his behavior. The next day, Yume cancels plans with her friends to spend time with Mizuto, but finds him talking to another girl in the library. Yume confronts him, calling him out on his hypocrisy. Mizuto tries to explain, but it escalates into an argument. Both feel betrayed and regret their actions. Eventually, they bump into each other at a bookstore and both want the same book. Mizuto gives Yume the last copy. They eat at a restaurant, where Mizuto formally apologizes and Yume accepts. In August, Yume tries to invite Mizuto to a festival but backs out. On their one-year anniversary, Yume notes Mizuto's silence. Their rift grows and they decide to break up on graduation day. Soon after, they learn their parents are getting married, making them step-siblings. In the present, Yume claims she's borrowing a book they first read together, leading to a contentious argument between them. During a late-night rainstorm, Yume receives a text from her mom, announcing her late arrival due to the typhoon. Yume responds with understanding but soon spots a cockroach in her room and panics. She rushes into Mizuto's room, struggling to explain the intruder. Once Mizuto realizes it's a cockroach, Yume panics further. Despite using pesticide, Yume ends up sharing Mizuto's bed. They argue until they fall asleep. Mizuto wakes up to find Yume close to him, grappling with his feelings but determined to forget them. The next day, Mizuto and Yume argue again about the cockroach. Their parents comment on their married-like bickering and announce a trip to Mizuto's family for Obon. Yume insists they buy swimsuits for river swimming. Before leaving, Yume suggests disguises. Mizuto reluctantly agrees. While trying on swimsuits, Mizuto gives his opinion on one, leading to an awkward moment. Yume buys that swimsuit. Walking home, they pass the wall where they first kissed. The wind blows off Yume's hat, and as Mizuto tries to catch it, he inadvertently comes close to her face. Yume prepares for a kiss, but Mizuto flicks her hair instead. At home, Yume returns Mizuto's book. Their parents note their strange behavior, and Yume denies they're a couple. Mizuto internally notes their parents' teasing indicates they view them as siblings. The following day, Isana visits to watch a movie. Yume grows jealous seeing Isana on Mizuto's lap. After the movie, Isana seeks Mizuto's opinion, leading to a lively discussion about the film's gender swap trope. Yume feels jealous again. Mizuto asks Yume for a drink and she serves it in her mug. Isana points out the indirect kiss, making Yume uncomfortable. Mizuto falls asleep in Yume's lap and Isana is tempted to kiss him, but Yume stops her. Isana reveals her consideration of a friends with benefits relationship with Mizuto, which Yume rebukes. Before leaving, Isana comments on their sibling-like behavior. Yume denies it, but is tempted to kiss Mizuto. She decides to forget her feelings, and that's the best course to take. Later, Yuni asks Yume about Isana and Mizuto's relationship, mentioning Yune might find a boyfriend soon. Yume admits she can't imagine dating anyone but Mizuto. The Iroro family embarks upon a visit to the countryside to see Mineaki's mother, where they are introduced to Mizuto's cousins, Madoka and Chikuma Tanasato, providing a fresh dynamic to their familial interactions. During their stay, Mizuto leads Yume to a room filled with an extensive collection of books, among which she discovers a self-published autobiography penned by Mizuto's great-grandfather, titled The Siberian Dancing Girl. Intrigued, Yume delves into the narrative, ultimately finding inspiration within its pages. Prompted by the Tanasato's inquisitive nature and the intimate atmosphere of their gathering, Yume takes the opportunity to pose a question to Mizuto regarding his first love, a subject that has long piqued her curiosity. Mizuto, however, offers a vague and enigmatic response, describing his first love merely as someone who loved to laugh, leaving the specifics of his past affections shrouded in mystery. This ambiguous reply leads Yume to draw her own conclusions, and she becomes convinced that Madoka Tanasato is in fact the object of Mizuto's erstwhile affections. Nevertheless, the truth remains elusive, and the question lingers unanswered. If not Madoka, then who could it possibly be? During a summer sojourn to the countryside with the Irodo family, Mizuto and Yume find themselves immersed in the festive atmosphere of a traditional summer festival. Yume is taken aback yet pleasantly surprised to see Mizuto donning a yukata, a sight that adds a touch of warmth and familiarity to their shared experience. As they meander through the vibrant crowds, Yume observes the close bond between Madoka and Chikuma Tanasato, their cousins, and is struck by the ease and comfort that they display in each other's company. Inspired by this sibling camaraderie, Yume decides to emulate their affectionate dynamic and reaches out to take Mizuto's hand, intertwining her fingers with his as they walk side by side. This simple gesture sparks a wave of introspection within Yume as she ponders the true nature of her role in Mizuto's life and the complexities of their shared past. She comes to the realization that despite their best efforts, they have not yet fully moved on from the emotions and experiences that once bound them together as a couple. However, rather than dwelling on the past, Yume and Mizuto resolve to forge a new path forward, acknowledging that while their history is an indelible part of their relationship, it need not define their future. They conclude that as siblings and former lovers, they possess the unique opportunity to create new stories and memories together, embracing the present and looking towards the future with hope and optimism. Thus, hand in hand, they step forward into the night, ready to write their next chapter of their intertwined lives.